Hello. I'm so sorry about that. A little bit of a technical difficulty there, as always with me and the computer. We're just going to wait a minute or two for some more people to arrive, and I'm just going to set up my iPad so I can read your comments. So bear with me for one moment. I hope you're all well on this lovely, lovely day. Right, let me see if I can get onto here. And I'll be able to see who's watching, because at the moment I can't see anything. Right, so that's taking a little while, so we will. Right. Okay, let me just see what I have around me. I'm going to have to use my phone, guys, because my iPad isn't working. Technology, love it. Right, so let me pop onto here, go onto Pentot's page. There we are. Now, right, let me see if I can. I may not be able to see the comments very well, so you'll have to bear with me. Let's have a look. Oh, hello all you lovely, lovely people. Right, let's see. Adiko, Elizabeth, Sue, hello Sue off my design team. Sarah Lou, hello my lovely. And Dharma and Judith Young are here as well. So thank you so much for coming. Right, so tonight I'm doing a little project that is in honour to Our Majesty the Queen, who has her Platinum Jubilee this weekend. So I've decided that my project is going to be in silvers and greys in honour of that. So, oh, hello Anthony, I can see you there. Thank you so much for coming. And Jill, thank you so much, my lovely. Thank you for being here. And so let's just give it a second or two and see if we get any more. We have 32 people watching, so I can probably start and make a little bit of a start on this project. I've tried to do some prep because as with mixed media, there's a lot of air drying and mediums that take a little while to dry. So hopefully there won't be too much waiting and drying with the heat gun. So let me just pop you onto the overhead here. Right, so to start with, I did a little test sample of the greys and platinum colours that I have here. Okay, and this is going to help me when I decide what colours to do on my project. Hello Tamay, thank you for coming, lovely to see you. So I'm going to keep this in front of me here, because then as I'm going through my project, it's going to help me decide. And what we're going to do today is I've already put together a little 3D grey board structure. It's actually a house, but it won't look like a house when we've finished. And the first thing I'm going to do onto that is stencil a couple of little timepieces on the back and the side. I'm not too worried about the front, because that's going to be covered with embellishments. And the medium that I'm going to use to begin with is the Stone Effect paste, and this one is in limestone, so it's a nice light colour, and we're going to be obviously adding paint over the top of this. So I don't need too much because it's quite a small surface that I'm working on. I'm just, there we go. I'm going to try and move my camera down just slightly. Please let it all be okay, but I'm just aware that I'm a bit high up there. I've got a new webcam, which a lovely chap called Anthony, who's watching tonight, helped me set up. And very technically it's holding on for grim life with about 4 hair bubbles. So I really don't want it to fall off. So I'm going through here with the Stone Effect paste, and I'm not taping it down. If you don't know me, I'm a very messy crafter. I do mixed media, so it's not precision work. and my pieces, I do like them to be quite grungy and industrial. So whenever Penta asks me to do something pretty and florally, I tend to struggle a little bit, but sometimes it's quite nice to come outside of your comfort zone, isn't it? But I do love the texture you get from this stone effect paste, and so as you can see, I'm leaving it quite rough as I go through. I'm not smoothing it down as you might do with some modelling pastes, etc., because I want to get some texture there. And the main reason for that is because we're going with a very, very limited colour palette, as you can see here. It's extra important that we have lots of texture and different surfaces, so there'll be some rough, some smooth, to try and make it more interesting and not be at all bland. So I'm leaving that there because I don't particularly want the cogs. Okay, and I would like to put a little bit on the sides. There's no need for the top or the bottom, and obviously the problem with this is it's a super small area, but we'll get a little bit on. And I'm already covered, which is quite typical of me and my crafting. I will have the messiest fingers at the end. I am supposed to keep an eye on the comments and answer questions. I've got to be honest, once I start crafting, I tend to get a little bit like tunnel vision. So do forgive me if you're asking any questions and I'm not answering. Hello Louise, thank you so much for coming. Hello Gail. You're getting a funny tapping, clicking or static noise. Oh, I'll tell you what, that's not my bracelets, is it? Let me take those off. That might be what's annoying you. And if it's anything technical, I'm at a loss as to what to do. But if it is those bracelets, let me know if that goes and I've taken those off. That won't be a static, but it would be a tapping or clicking. Anthony's watching me, so he might know if there's something. Judith, you thought it was your ears. Oh, Louise, you had to leave and come back in. Oh, it's gone quieter. Oh, it's not the bracelets, says Sue. Oh, right. I'm afraid I'm not quite sure what that is, so I will try and... Can you hear me if I talk a bit more quietly? It might be because I was talking too loudly. Ah, Anthony says, try turning down your audio level. I wonder if it was that, because when I get excited, I do tend to go a bit high-pitched and a bit squeaky. So I've turned that down now. Do let me know if that's a bit better. And I'm apologies. Oh, there's nothing worse if you're trying to watch a live and it's either fuzzy or hissy. So I'm going to just dry this side a moment because I obviously want to turn it over and do the other one. I'm going to move it off of camera. The sound is off on my phone. So sounds like a crackling campfire. Oh my goodness. It was perfect in rehearsals earlier today. Oh, thank you, Louise. So Louise left the live and came back in, and it's much better now. So maybe try that, guys. She says it's something to do with the signal. Yes, Anthony, it was perfect earlier, wasn't it? Hello, Jane. Oh, hello, girl. Sounds like I have popping candy in my mouth. Oh. No, I'm not using any sweets. I can absolutely clarify. There's no candy anywhere near me, which is quite unusual. I'm going to keep going and hope hope that that's a bit better. All we can do is carry on. These things are never straightforward. It doesn't matter how much you prep and how organised you think you are and how ready you think you are. Invariably, some gremlins come along and try and catch you out. And if, like me, you're not very technically minded, it really does spook you out a bit. I didn't think I was live when we started. So I had a mild panic attack. Right, so I'm going to set that aside for a moment and work on something else. And I will probably have to come back and dry it with the heat tool, but I'm trying to avoid that. Hey, it's gone, says Gail. That's fantastic. Perhaps I was shouting into the new webcam. So the next thing I'm going to do is I have already prepared with some resin, because we have just over an hour. We need to try and keep it to about an hour, which is almost impossible with mixed media unless you've done a ton of prep. So I've gone ahead and I've made a pair of wings using this mould, and I've already covered it in the black dipping paint. Now I know you've seen an awful lot of the chromes and chameleons and the dipping paints. They are amazing, absolutely amazing. So if you haven't had a chance to try them yet, I really would suggest you give them a go, because they're very, very special. Right, so what I'm trying to find now is a brush that isn't wet, because I was using it earlier. There we go, let's try this one. It's quite short and stubby, but we'll give it a go. Hi Angela, thank you for coming. Now I'm very lucky, and Pentot sent me all of the new rub-on pigments, and the one colour I wanted to use today I couldn't find. How typical is that? So I've had to purchase a new one, which is fine because it's silver and I use a lot of silver, so it's really not a problem. But again, just how typical is that? Every single other colour except the silver. Right, so I'm just going to grab my wax a moment. Can I apologise for my nail? I was going to put a plaster on, but because I couldn't get the live to work properly, I didn't actually go out and do it because I was absolutely stressing. Right, so I'm going to get my wax. And I'm sure you know how these work, so I'm basically going to decant a little bit of wax. So that I can put some on my finger and then go in with this fantastic silver chrome powder. So just have a look at that, guys. Absolutely amazing. Oh Gail, you're now addicted to resin. It is absolutely fantastic, and Pentot do so many products that work really well with it, don't they? So I'm getting a little bit of wax on my finger, not too much, not big blobs, dipping it into the powder that nearly went flying all over the desk there. And I'm simply going to rub it into the ends of the wings here. And for anyone who hasn't seen this in work, at work, this is, I liken it to the heat embossing technique. It's definitely a wow moment, because that now just looks like sheet metal. Absolutely amazing, hence the name chrome. it's a whole different ball game to a silver wax, which I'm also going to put on in a moment. So I'm not covering the whole wing, I just want to do the outside edge with this for a minute. I'm trying really hard not to show you that nail, but because it's on my thumb, it's almost impossible for me to craft without it getting into view. So I hope it's not offending anyone that my false nail is broken off. I hasten to add it's a false one. It doesn't hurt. It just looks rather ugly. Angela, you're going to shop this evening. That's fine, my darling. I'm not going anywhere. You take your time and enjoy your shopping. But thank you so much for buying from me. Okay. So the same on the wing for the other side. Am I the only one that has a bit of a thing for wings and hearts? Anybody else out there love adding either wings or hearts or both to their projects? I don't know if it's a steampunk thing. Now I'm leaving a little bit of the black because I think that quite adds to the sort of iron / platinum feel, as opposed to actually covering every single morsel of the wings. And already they are starting to look pretty fantastic. Anthony, you nearly added wings to your Statue of Liberty. I'm sure if there was any way you could have, you would have. I must admit, I do tend to use them quite a lot, which is why I'm so pleased we've got such lovely ones in the Stamperia range that we can use with our Pentart mediums. Right, so I'm going to pop the lid back on there. Now, this one's a little bit damp, so what I'm going to do is, as in good old-fashioned crafter style, I am going to just buff these with the underside of my beautiful Pentart apron and just give them a little bit of a super shine. So this is a choice thing. You don't have to buff up. If you liked them, and I'll show you them side by side, but if you just wanted to leave it as it was, it still looks amazing. But there definitely is a difference. Now it's a bit tricky with shiny things and cameras, isn't it? So this is one that hasn't been buffed, which does look lovely. It looks pretty shiny. But when you see this one, it literally looks like tin. So I'm hoping you'll be able to see the difference. Maybe on the reflection you can see that this one here that I've buffed is super smooth, super shiny. In fact, the reflection is ridiculous off the camera. Hi Sharon Actress. So yeah, choice is yours, but as I've buffed that one, I need to buff the other, because otherwise we're going to have odd wings. So thank you again to everyone who's come to watch this evening and giving up your time to watch me have a lovely play with my fantastic Pentart products. So this one, I think I'm going to put a tiny bit of silver wax. I don't know if it shows, but I tend to just go with the flow with my creations. I don't prep them to within an inch of their life. I get out some things that I know I'll want to play with that'll work, so i.e. all my silver and grey product. But in terms of how this is actually going to finish, I can't tell you. Yes, bonding primer is an amazing product, and it will go on anything, ceramics, glass. It's a better product in terms of what it can do than gesso even. The only thing is it's not clear. It is a white product, so you can't use it if you want to go over paper, for example, or images, but it will stick to so many things, and if my eyes were better, even with my glasses on, I'd read them all out. But it's a lot. Now I'm just going to get a little bit of this wax out. So this is the silver wax paste. pop a little bit on the edge of here. Normally I just go straight in with my fingers, but because of these silly nails, I'll end up with half the pot underneath. I don't normally have these sorts of nails, I have to admit, but it was my daughter's wedding, first of my children to get married, and quite typically all my nails decided to break in the week before the wedding, so I had to go and have these fake ones on, and I have to say I love the look of them, but gosh, I can't get on with them very well. I'm struggling to open things and use my waxes so I can't wait for them to actually for my normal nails to come back. So you can definitely see a difference here. Don't know if the camera is picking it up, but in real life here in front of me I can see a huge difference between the wax and the shiny chrome finish. And again, I love the fact that we've still got the black showing underneath, so I'm very happy with those, and I'll leave those like that. Now the next thing I want to do is prep a little grey board heart. So I've got a little bit of white primer on there, and what I need to think about is what colour I want to do this. I think I'm going to make this quite dark because I want the wings to go on top. So looking at my colour chart here, yes, the Rococo metallic is very dark, but it's shiny, so I'm going to go with the grey matte, and I think I'm going to add a tiny little bit of black into it actually. I don't know if you guys do that, but I love mixing paint colours and making my own concoctions. I'm saying that, where's my black? It's a huge pot, I can't possibly have lost it. She says, I'm surrounded by so much product you would not believe, because I was going to go pastel-y, so I've got all the pinks and purples and everything out. Oh gosh, there it is. Right, so I've got a huge pot of black, and I'm just going to make a little bit up, add a tiny bit of the black to the grey, literally a little speck, because black will take it over. So sorry about my phone, it's actually quite an important call that I forgot was going to come through, so I keep deleting it, and hopefully they'll give up and I'll have to call them back. Okay, so let's put some grey in here. Again, you remember what I was saying about textures, so we're going to have some matte, we're going to have some shiny. Hello Kim. Oh yes, you've got some bonding primer. Yeah, Gail, you'll love it. It's really, really nice to work with. Okay, so let's make this a little bit darker. Yeah, happy with that. And I'm going to do my painting trick where I hold, it's not a trick but it's a tip, hold, instead of coming straight in on the face of your item that you're wanting to paint, hold it on the face so that you can get round all the sides easily. And then once you've done all your sides, you move to the front and sort of paint around where you're holding, and then once you put it down on the desk you can easily paint that last little bit. If you come in and paint the top first, you always have this little struggle about where you're going to put your fingers while you're trying to paint the sides, or at least that's what I always find. Okay, so whilst I've got this paint still on my brush, there's quite a lot, I don't want to waste it. I don't want this piece to be this exact colour, but I think I am going to come in and just do the outer edges and the inner edge, so we don't have that brown showing from the cut edge of the grey board, because we want it all to be. And again, this has been primed because it was originally this colour, but I just did a little bit of prep, so I'm just coming in and out to try and make sure we've got most of those bits inside covered. Right, now that can go into my water, and I can look to move on to something else. So I'm just going to quickly dry this one off. Gail, you don't know what dipping paint is? This is dipping paint, Gail. And this is what we put onto the resin pieces. And for someone who likes resin, you will love this. And it then allows us to add the chrome and chameleon powders. It creates a super smooth, super shiny black gloss. So we've pretty much got that done. And whilst I've got the heat tool out, I'm just going to give this a really quick blast just to make sure that it's ready to take some paint. Because I think while I've got some paint out, that's what I'm going to do next. Right, I'm going to put my a bit of colour now on this backboard. And because I want a contrast, although it will be pretty much covered up on the front but not on the other sides, let's go with the lighter dove grey. And the Decor paint is a fantastic chalky paint. It covers really quickly. It's a beautiful, beautiful paint to work with, the whole range. I'm going to leave this colour as it is. So it's dove grey. And at home you might want to put 2 coats. Obviously for time I'm just going to do 1 today, but it does give superb coverage even on the dark edges of the grey board. As you can see here, it is covering it very well. If you're painting onto smooth surfaces like this, I quite often prefer to use a sponge. I don't know why I didn't get them out today. Well, we do know, last minute panic and all that. I mean, I've only known for probably about 2 weeks, no, a week. I think it was last week they asked me if I'd cover alive. But certainly had enough time to get sponges out. But hey ho, we're going to use what we have to hand and make the best of it. And the only difference is that the sponge obviously doesn't create all the brush strokes, but again, because my piece is relatively it's not grunge like, but it's, you know, it's not perfection personified, my finishes. Someone, Sarah Lee, you can have beans on toast. Thanks Jill for answering questions. Yeah, you really do need to try with your resin creations, you need to try the dipping paint. I think it's out of stock on my shop, but I'm getting some more in. But I've certainly got some of the chrome pigments. So let's get this dried off a little bit. funny, isn't it? Because when you're just crafting sort of at home for yourself and you're not live, you always think, oh, these things dry really quickly. And then when you're on a bit of a time frame, and on a live, a minute feels like 10 minutes when you're waiting for things to dry. Right, sorry about that. Okay. So we'll put some onto the sides. And what's going to be the back. I'm just going to move my wings a moment because I don't really want to get this paint all over them. And I won't heat blast this for a second. I'll move on to something else, so we'll give it a chance to dry by itself, because you don't really want to see 20 minutes of me drying with a heat tool unless it's really necessary throughout the hour. So I'm being a little bit careful where I'm holding it because it's not totally dry on the back. This is a beautiful colour, this dove grey. Really, really pretty. And grey is a great colour to have in your arsenal because it goes with so many complementary and contrast colours. So if you're not used to using grey and you tend to use white or black as your neutral, or even browns, give a nice pale grey a try. It looks nice with obviously the pastels, the pink, navies, bright colours, other neutrals. Right, so I'm going to stand that there, hopefully, and hope that not too much comes off from the front that hasn't dried yet. So I've got this one here, still a little bit of paint on here, so let me have a think. I'm going to go over this. I hate putting brushes into the water when they're loaded up with paint. Usually I'll have a little pad or something next to me that I can tend to sort of take the paint off, either some die cuts or something like that, because even if it's not your final colour, by adding lots of layers of paint, so say you did that, say you had one piece like this next to you when you were doing projects for you know, a few projects, and you kept layering up the paint, no matter what the colour, when you put your top colour on, you've usually got nice different textures. So here there's not so much, here there's more, for example. Obviously there's a somewhat limit, so especially if it's a detailed piece, you don't want to lose the detail by having sort of 16 layers of paint on it. But if it was something, for example, like a tag next to you, you can get rid of your paint onto there, and you'll be surprised. Sometimes you make some really lovely colour combinations completely by accident. So this one now, I'm going to pop onto here some of the deluxe paste. And this one is the anthracite, and I'm not going to go through a stencil, I'm just going to apply it sort of haphazardly. A lot of this heart will be covered up by embellishments, so it would kind of be a waste of energy trying to have a full-on image on here, but equally I don't just want this left completely flat. I just want to have as much going on as I can in terms of different textures and looks. So this is the deluxe paste. It comes in several colours and it's beautiful. It's got a super fine grade I'm going to say glitter. It's not shiny like a glitter, but it has got a lovely sheen. And what I'm going to do is hold it sort of just off of a right angle and just scrape down in the length of the heart, not all over randomly. I'm just trying to pick up, get a little bit of texture on here, and by doing it this way you can see we're getting little bits here and there, which is exactly what I want. Instead of putting it on as you would normally, sort of more flat and through a stencil. I'm going to focus more on this middle part because that's where the clock face is going to go. There we go, and you can see hopefully at that angle there, you can see that we've got some texture now and a little bit of shimmer. Oh, thank you, Angela, that's really kind. Kim, you've not heard of Dip and Paint. You need to watch our videos. We've done several on the I Love well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I think I am. You know where I'm from because it said on the title. We've got several videos on our page. And you can see what it's all about. Pentart themselves do fantastic YouTube product videos. They've got some lovely ones as well. So go along and check it out and you'll see just what these little pots of magic look like. And yes, they're very small pots, but genuinely it goes such a long way, because you saw how little I used, literally the tip of your finger. I almost didn't use it today because I feel as though it's been heavily promoted, I thought, by Pentart and lots of other people. But yeah, go onto the site. And Gail, if you do order any, or Kim, I'll pop in a little bit of this into a tub for you so you can use it while we wait for the full size ones to come through. So yeah, rather than you have to wait for that to come through to me, you can get started straight away. Right, so I'm really happy with that because we've got a really nice alternate look there. Yeah, quite pleased with that, I have to say. I do love those deluxe pastes. They're different. Sounds silly, but they are. They're just different. They give a different feel. So the next thing that I'm throwing on the floor, I don't believe it, I just did it again. Right, okay, I think it's because I just saw what the time was, but I'm not going to rush. Okay, so the next thing I have here is I used some of the Pentart glass clear resin in another mould, and I made it some time ago and it did have some gold and black flakes in, but that's fine because I'm actually going to cover the front. I don't want gold and black on my project, but you might just be able to make out that it's like a clock face. So I'm going to shift that to one side for a second. I'm running out of spaces to dry things. And the next thing I'm going to use on here is the Pentart Mirror Mist. It comes in a glass or a plastic option. So this is acrylic, so I've got my plastic option here. And I would suggest it needs shaking. It has a ball in there, okay. It needs shaking, but I do find that sometimes I get a bit messy with it, so it's probably user error, but I always put a little napkin around or a piece of cloth just while I shake, because you need to agitate the ingredients inside. Okay, and I'm going to use, just pop this down here. I kind of don't want to waste that wax over there, so but equally I don't really want my hands covered, so what can I use? Let's have that. So it's got a lovely little spray nozzle, and this is going to give a mirror-like finish as it dries. So when you first put it on, it simply looks grey. Now it is a solvent product, so it does have a slight smell to it. It's not an unpleasant smell. It's like lots of things that are solvent based, you know, like your alcohol inks, etc. And I'm going to pop that back in the box. there's the lid. I was just about to say I can't see where the lid is. Now, as this dries, if you feel it's not mirror-like enough, you can go in and add a second layer. Because of time, I'm not going to today. I'm just going to leave that to settle there, and then once it's dry, you'll be able to see more like the mirror finish. So what next? Let me have a little look what I have here. Okay, I have some pre-made resin pieces that were made just, you know, to keep in my little pot. So they're not the colours. You've never used it. Come on, ladies, when you buy these fabulous products, you really need to use them because you don't know what you're missing. I was with a crafty friend at the weekend and she'd bought, it was, I'm not going to say the brand, but it was like a sort of rolling stamping type machine thing. She bought it absolutely ages ago when it first came on the market, probably about 2 years ago. It had been in her boot for that 2 years. Because she had to clean her boot out, she went in and actually used it, and she said she is just in love with it. And I said, but you could have been using it for the last 2 years. We're so sort of bad, aren't we, at you know, keeping things for rainy days, not just craft products, you know, nice candles and things like that. We think, oh yeah, I'll buy that. I won't use it. I won't use it. I'll keep it for when I really want it. Get on and use it, guys. You don't know what you're missing. You might find a whole new love for a different product or a different style of crafting. So excuse my messy pot. This is the liquid metal in the silver. And I'm just going to cover this one. Now this is quite fluid. Actually, I'm just thinking, oh no, it's fine. I was going to say it might move a little bit in so much as I didn't prepare the surface, but that's fine. And although this is already silver, I'm going to also put a little bit on top of here because I think this is just a normal silver paint I've put on here. And then once these are dry, I'm going to come over the top with the Pentacolor black wax. And again, what we're doing is more texture, more variety of colour. Okay. So that's that. I'm having a little look around, seeing if I can think of anything else I want to put on there. No. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do now is dry this off. That's what you should start to do, Kim. Yes. Do you know what I love doing? I love making colour swatches. Oh, Kim, they dried up. You can... Kim, there's often a way to revive most product. I'm not going to say every product, but most products. There's actually a product that reinvigorates solvent waxes. Anything that's a water-based product you can usually reinvigorate. Glycerin's another thing that is great to try on some things. And if you're not sure, just take a little bit out of a pot if you can dig it out, and then try mixing it with some water. Or ask on sort of community Facebook pages, or if it's a Pentacolor product, ask on the Pentacolor community page or on our group page. 9 times out of 10, if you've had a problem with something, someone else has, and they've usually found a solution. You know, throwing things out should be the very, very last resort. I'm not saying it never happens. What time am I on? 42. Right, we might go 5 minutes over, but all the fun is going to be in putting all of this together and like the final details. Now the reason I want this dry is I want to pop on here a little bit of the antiquing gel, just to highlight. Let's move that to one side. See, it's a fine line between prepping too much and then not showing you how to use the product. I'm going to leave that another minute before I show you that because it's nearly there. Prepping too much and so you don't get to see how the products work, or not prepping enough and then it's a mad dash in the last 10 minutes to actually get the project rather put together so you can see how it looks. Because let's be honest, it's great looking at how everything works, but for me, I love that last little section where you start layering everything and you start to see what the creator, for want of a better word, had in mind. So I'm leaving the front of this where we're going to add all these embellishments as it is, because it's hardly going to be seen. There's a couple of areas on here that aren't quite as dry as I would like, but I'm going to risk coming in with my antiquing gel in black, another wonderful product, lots of colours available, and you get a massive pot of these antiquing gels. So you can paint with them, you can just put them on a project and leave them as they are, almost like a paint, but what they're really designed for, oh that's still a bit wet around there, is that you put them all over your project where you have some stenciling or some texture, and then you rub some back so that it stays in some of the recesses and creates an antique look, hence the name. You really should wait for this to be completely dry, because there is a slight risk that as I try and wipe this away it will pull off and leave some bits of, it might pull away some of the paint, but as I said, in an ideal world we would leave that to dry, but when we're on a live. So if you're not used to doing it, it can sometimes appear a little bit scary when you've put a project together, done several layers, and then you come in with something, especially when it's the black, and cover everything over and sort of think, what? But there are quite a few techniques that are similar to this, where you cover something you've done and then wipe it away, and it's a fantastic alternative to aging something as opposed to just putting a product on top like a wax or something like that. I said I was going to leave that, but I've made a bit of a mess of it, so I'm just going to put a little bit on. I would do underneath, but I'll do that afterwards, and I'm just putting a bit down there. Right, I'm just super quick glass and I can wipe it off. Crackle paste, yes Judith. Yes Gail, putting together is really is the fun part, isn't it? Yeah, I thought this was still a little bit wet here, but that's fine, I knew that. Now I'm going to come in, this isn't particularly wet, and just start to wipe some of this away now. Now you do have to sort of wipe, actually I'll get wet one. You do have to wipe quite hard, but because I'm aware that my stuff isn't completely dry under there, I'll show you on this bit. You see how you can, when it's dry, you can rub quite hard and it just distresses and antiques. Now because my paste underneath isn't really dry enough, the problem I have is that I'm knocking some of the paste off while I'm trying to take the antiquing paste off, so you might not get it quite as what I really want to do is have to say I'm not really selling this product. It's not the product. It's because I haven't let my paste dry thoroughly enough underneath. I personally am quite liking this super grungy look, but it's not normally quite this grungy, I have to say. But I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Things evolve. And what we certainly are achieving is another texture and something, a completely different look. You see here, so if I kept working on this, this would reveal more and more of the light grey, and the dark would stay in the recesses here. But this is what's happening, because it hasn't had a chance to dry thoroughly. It's pulling up some of the stone paste. But at home, when you've had time to let it dry, that simply won't happen. Well, I actually quite like that, you know. And I'm not just saying that because it kind of went a little bit wrong. I bet if I tried to achieve that look, it wouldn't work, would it? Right, okay. Right, put the lid back on that, and then I'll show you this one up close. Oh, thank you, Gail. It still looks great. I mean, I like it, but then I do like grungy. To me, it now looks rather like stone, cement, which I know is a joke because I've used the stone effect paste underneath, but now it has yeah, see, this is more like what it would do here. And of course, if my cloth wasn't covered in grey, it would probably come off a little bit easier. So you see here where it's staying down in the recesses, but coming away from some of the top parts. There you go. But if anyone likes making stone projects or Halloween projects, that would be a smashing little gothic building or graveyard scene or something. Wasn't quite what I was going for today, but I'm going to run with it. It does, Judith. It looks like granite or marble, Kim. Yes. Oh, Elizabeth, it's super cool. Thank you so much, lovely. That's really kind. Right, so I want this to be dry because I'm going to start piecing everything together, and obviously it's quite tricky to get a glue that's going to set in time, but we've got more of a chance if our base is quite dry. Right, so I'll set that there for one moment. This is probably ready now for you to have a little look at. Can you see the mirror finish on here? And it is obviously, as the name suggests, a mirror finish. And if you use it on a flat sort of surface like a piece of glass or a piece of flat perspex, it really does go like a regular mirror. Because we've got indentations and reliefs and things on here, obviously it's pulled in some areas, but I love it, absolutely love it. And there it is on the back. But this is the side we're going to use on our project. Now, although I love that effect, I'm going to put a tiny little bit of wax, the black wax, over the top. Not much at all, because I don't want to undo all that lovely shimmer. So I'm going to go in just with a tiny little bit. You can't even see it on the card there hardly. Literally, tiny little bit, just on some of these raised areas, just so we can add a little bit of definition without removing all that lovely shine. Mostly on the cogs there, so it's dulled it down a little bit on the cogs but left everything else nice and shiny. And look at that card. That card's got to be used for something. That's rather cool, isn't it? Right, so that's that piece. Are these dry? Not quite. Because I wanted to actually go over these as well. This I'm going to actually leave as it is, you know. If I had more time, I might put something like a clear embossing powder over it. But I quite like the fact that we've got different colours on there. It's not black, it's not silver, it's not grey, it's just a nice mottle. And then if I feel I need to do something else on it, I can, once I put it down. So I'm going to continue to dry those a little bit over there. And with my left hand, on this piece here, I would like to add a very large glass cabochon. Now the problem with that is obviously it might take a little while to dry. So I'm going to just pop on. Oh, what have I got here? Let me try this. Little bit of glue that's clear just around the edge. And the chances are when I try and actually put everything together and lift it off, it might start to move, but that's what happens when you're gluing and you're live. I was going to use my fantastic UV glue, which would have dried instantly. However, couldn't find the UV light. So yeah, it's a bit slippy slidey, but hopefully you can get an idea of how that's now enhanced that clock face. I think I might just try, I know I'm off camera, I'm just literally putting glue on, guys, so bear with. It's not anything exciting to see, I promise. So it's a bit milky because I've put another glue around there, which may or may not dry in the next couple of minutes. We shall see. Right, so this is the back of my piece. If I had more time, oh no, I'm just going to do it very, very quickly. Where's my card with me silver wax I was trying to save? I'm going to put a tiny little bit just on these raised. Wax is my absolute go-to product. It just adds a wonderful final touch to almost anything. And like here, it's quite subtle, but it's actually picking up and highlighting, so we can really see that that's a clock face now. And again, by just putting it on your finger, if you watch this part here, you'll see it's just picking up those top edges and bringing them out. And how's about that for a lovely stone effect? So with our stone effect paste, then with our paint and antiquing gel, and then a little bit of wax over the top. I think that's a super, sorry, I'm waiting for it to focus. Look at my hands, always look like that. Again, it looks like there's a moon on it. Oh yes, I can see, well spotted. But yeah, I'll take photographs of these and put them up so you can see, because it's quite hard sometimes through the video camera, but the texture and the relief on that, I'm really, really pleased with that, if I do say so myself. So let's get to putting some things together. Look, I told you I was going to use my glue. I've actually got it, but I cannot find my UV light to activate it, so for all intents and purposes, that's pretty rubbish, because it wouldn't work. I might actually quickly plug in my glue gun. and hopefully, which I should have done sooner, let's be honest. And might have to try and use a little bit of glue gun, which I don't know. Right, hopefully it's going to come back. So sorry. Oh, Sylvia, you joined just as it was a problem. That's not fair. Right, so we are nearly there. I know I'm on the hour. I'm so sorry. I think I hit the key while I was moving something on my phone. So I think I may have disappeared for a second or two. So don't forget, this is the back of our project, because the front is now very plain, because it's going to be rather covered up. I'm just going to start placing on all my elements here. First thing I'm going to do is put my heart on. Now let's see if this is heated up enough. Oh, might be lucky, guys. Now, along with the glue gun, I'm going to put some of the express glue on, because that's going to help hold it on there for longer once the glue gun has decided it doesn't want to take anymore. I might have left that for a second or two too long for the glue gun. Let me have a look. Yeah. I think it wasn't quite hot enough. Right. So this is fantastic express glue, but for a live it's still not express enough. We need instant. Oh, Angela, you slept mostly this afternoon. Oh, bless you. Do you want to know the truth? I had a little nap as well. So I'm putting my clock face on. I really shouldn't have, because then I would have had everything ready that I wanted to have ready, wouldn't I? So when you're doing a clock face, always bear in mind that you want to, unless deliberately not, you want to have your 12 at the top. Okay, so let's put a little bit of this express glue around, and then I don't want to use too much of the hot glue, because it is going to show more than I would like. So this is where our time element comes in to the whole time flies name of the project. Sylvia, you weren't here at the beginning. I think I told you I was going to use pastel spring colours, and I was going to, but then I thought, oh, it's the weekend this weekend of the Platinum Jubilee, so I've decided to go with greys and silvers and platinum in honour of the Jubilee of the Queen. So you might be looking at this thinking, I thought she was going to use pale pink. Right, we can get those little wispy bits off when we have a bit more time, because time is of the essence. And then onto my clock, I now want to add my wings. I'm going to just stand up for this a moment, because obviously I want to place it relatively central. How typical that the glue gun wisps are right in the part where I don't want them. There we go, get most of those off. Right, look, perfect over here where it's not going to be seen. Now, what I need to be aware of is that I want to put this on top. So we call it offering up. So we're offering up the pieces rather than just sticking these down and then finding that one's wrong or something like this. We do sort of like a little mini trial run and get an idea of where it's going to sit. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So I am just putting some under there. And then I'm just moving this over a second so I'm nearer to my glue gun because it's got rather a short lead. Hopefully you can just about see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. So we have our house substrate, our heart with different textures and colours, then our wings that have got our silver wax as well as our silver chrome. So we've got two different finishes going on here. Okay, just want that to sit flat. Now I just want a little piece of, here we go, grey board, because I've got a recess here, so I'm going to need to support that little area before I put my clock on, because I need to bring it up to a height where it will, the glue will still touch it when it's sitting on the wings. So yeah, we can get away with that one. So a little bit of express glue, as well as a little bit of glue gun for an instant grab. And that's not high enough, so we've got a second piece, but I'm not going to make it quite as tall. Hi Sandy Drawbridge, thanks for coming. Thank you everyone for still staying. I know I've gone slightly over the hour at the moment, but bear with because we are literally in the final stages, and you will be able to see our Platinum Time Flies project. So again, I want to make sure my 12 is at the top of this cabochon underneath. So this glue I've put on just now, you can still see it moving there, so that will fall off that glass cabochon because it's super heavy. So when I show you, I would have to lift it up. Now, have I got just a second to put a little bit of my black wax onto this crown? Because it's the Queen, I think I really do need the crown. So this was super shiny because we used the silver metal paint, so I want to bring in that black wax to just again add another dimension and highlight those features. And before I put the glue on, see, the obvious thing is to put it there, but then I'm going to hide all my clock, which I don't really want to do. So I'm actually going to, do you know what, I'm actually going to put it up here. I've just decided there's no point me having done all that work on that clock face to just hide it under my embellishment. So let's put that there, and it actually follows the curve of that clock face quite well. I've still got enough of the deluxe paste showing on my heart, so I quite like that. And what I'd like to do now is, because it's royalty, is I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle onto my crown using some of the fantastic eco glitter. So I have here the the extra fine, the fine and the coarse. So we will probably have a little bit of the coarse and the fine, and I'm just going to add, you know, it doesn't have to be too precise, although it does look as though I'm trying to just fill those wells, doesn't it? And I'm going in with the coarse first, And of course when that glue dries, it will dry completely clear, but at the moment it's going to have a little bit of a milky look. And then I'm going in with the fine on top, because that will fill in any of the little gaps that have been left by the course. I'm not going to glue these, but I have two lovely little silver spoons that have a crown at the top. I don't know if we can quite pick this up, excuse the state of my hands, but they are going to go, I don't want them to look like spoons, but I do want them I do want to have the crowns showing, so I will glue those in later on. These could possibly have gone on somewhere, but I actually think I quite like it without them, to be honest. I mean, they could have gone down here. I don't know. I think I was trying to replicate, although they're flowers and flourishes, I'll kind of replicate the emblem of like the lion, etc. So I think, guys and gals, I'm quite finished with that. I'm quite happy with that. Let me just unplug this glue gun before I show you everything, because it's hot and going everywhere. Now I can't lift it up like that to show you when I come on the face camera, so I'm just, because obviously this huge glass cabochon isn't stuck yet and these aren't stuck on at all. I'm going to decide later on whether I want them there or not. What do you think, guys? Do you think these look better on the bottom? I'll show you the with and without, and you can give me some suggestions. That's going to take a little while to dry, and then this milky residue will go and it will just be pure mirror mist under there. So that's with them on the corner, and that's without. Got a couple of little wisps here. Yes, I hear what you're saying, Sue, about clock hands with these. I was actually thinking more along the line of, you know, the scepter. When she holds the scepter, that's the sort of angle that that's at. But I will stick those down off air. But hopefully with one colour palette, grey, well, grey and silver. But because we've used lots of textures and lots of finishes, you can see that even using just one sort of colourway, you can still make a really interesting project, and it's all to do with layers, and it's all to do with using lots of different products in the same colour, so that you get the smooth, the textured, the gritty, the glittery, the chrome shine. And then I'm gonna shall I risk flipping this over? It is going to fall, I know it is. Right, here we go. But then you get all the texture on the back here as well, which is a complete contrast. It's a grungy, rough texture, a complete contrast to all the shine on the other side. And I will come in, guys, and paint this black, because I know that looks atrocious, but time-wise, I was struggling a little bit to get it all done in the hour. I hope you like that, guys and gals. Thank you so much for sticking with me and letting me enjoy playing with my fantastic products. I'm just going to come back on to say goodbye. Hello. I hope you enjoyed that. I had great fun. Right, I'm going to take those off because they really are going to fall. And I really hoped you picked up some techniques. I know a few of you hadn't seen the dipping paint and the chrome before, so I'm glad I was able to show you those and how they work. And to be honest, the camera does not do this chrome justice. I've not really got light on it. It is so shiny. But yeah, I'll take some photos when it's all dry and lots of close-ups so you can see all those textures. And yeah, I'll probably go off and have a cup of coffee now. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for the hearts. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Sylvia and Pentart, for inviting me to do another live with you guys. The products from Pentart, honestly, I mean it from my heart. I love playing with them. They are absolutely fantastic. There are so many of them. There's something for everyone in the Pentart range. So do make sure you check out some of these products I've shown you today and all the other things they have to offer. and a special thank you to Anthony for helping me set up to be ready for today. Lots of love to you all, and hopefully I will see you here again soon. Thanks guys. Bye.